Picking up where we last left off, the two-part episode of the history of Call of Duty continues. This is where we shall focus on 4 standalone Call of Duty titles such as Ghosts, Advanced Warfare, Infinite Warfare, and World War II. This will also conclude with a reboot of Modern Warfare, Black Ops Cold War, and Vanguard. Many would say that Ghosts, Advanced Warfare, and Infinite Warfare was a dark time for the series, but of course, there are those who would say that they were good games regardless of what the critics or the public say. This is the second part of the history of Call of Duty.
It's been 10 years.
Call of Duty Ghosts was first released worldwide on November 5th, 2013 on the PS3, Xbox 360, and Microsoft Windows. 10 days later, the game was released with the launch of both PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. This is the 6th game that was developed by Infinity Ward and the 10th major installment in the Call of Duty series of games. Although Ghosts was praised for its multiplayer game and the Extinction mode, criticisms were aimed at the campaign, rehashing of familiar concepts, and general lack of innovation once again. The story of Call of Duty Ghosts takes place in the near future that follows the nuclear destruction of the Middle East. The oil-producing nations of South America formed the Federation of the Americas in response to the ensuing global economic crisis and quickly grow into a global superpower, swiftly invading and conquering Central America, the Caribbean, and Mexico. The game's main protagonists are the Ghosts, a force of U.S. Special Operations personnel trained to conduct clandestine missions behind enemy lines. The unit is led by U.S. Army Captain Elias Walker, played by Stephen Lang of Avatar fame and other movies as well. He is joined by his sons Logan and David Hash Walker, played by Brandon Routh of Superman Returns and Legends of Tomorrow fame, along with a trained German Shepherd named Riley, Captain Thomas A. Merrick, and Gunnery Sergeant Keegan P. Russ. The game's main antagonist is Gabriel T. Rourke, the former leader of the Ghosts who works for the Federation after being captured and brainwashed by the Federation via torture and hallucinogens. The gameplay remains much the same, yet new features are introduced such as playable non-human. Players can take control of a German Shepherd named Riley. The multiplayer has also added new mechanics into it, such as maps having areas that can be altered or destroyed. In this game, a new multiplayer type was included called Squads, which can be played solo or with others such as friends and family. Squads can be utilized in unique game modes involving AI-controlled enemies and AI-controlled squad mates. The game modes include Squad Assault, Safeguard, Safeguard Infinite, Squad vs. Squad, and War Game. All of these modes can be played while online or offline. Squad vs. Squad, 2 opposing players play team deathmatch using their squads. War Game, the player and 5 squad mates against a team of enemy bots in a mode. Safeguard, the player and up to 3 other friends in a wave-based survival match similar to survival mode from Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3, but with the addition of perks and score streak. Ghosts also features various new types of multiplayer such as Search and Rescue, Gun Game, Cranked, Search and Destroy, Domination, Team Tactical, and so on. Extinction is a new 4-player co-op mode which pits the players against various types of aliens in a base defending survival style map. The main goal is usually to destroy all of the cryptid hives scattered across the map. Players choose from 4 different class types with unique traits and customizable loadouts. The players can level up their classes, unlocking more weapons and equipment for their loadouts. This mode is unlocked by finishing the first level of the campaign. Call of Duty Advanced Warfare was first released on November 4th, 2014 on a PlayStation 3, Xbox 360, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and PC. This is the 11th major installment in the series, and the game was developed by Sledgehammer Games. High Moon Studios developed both PS3 and Xbox 360 versions, and Raver Software developed the Exozombies mode. Advanced Warfare is the first title fully developed by Sledgehammer Games, which co-developed Modern Warfare 3. Before the game's development, Sledgehammer was working on a game that took place during the Vietnam War, and was to be a third-person action shooter game. That title was called Call of Duty Fog of War, which was announced before Modern Warfare 3 and Black Ops. While working with Modern Warfare 3, their title was put on hold. The game's story features a futuristic setting set between 2054 and 2061 and follows Jack Mitchell of the United States Marine Corps and his involvement with Atlas, a private military corporation that sells its services to the highest bidder. Troy Baker voices the main protagonist Jack Mitchell, while disgraced Academy Award-winning actor Kevin Spacey voices Jonathan Irons. Gameplay is very much the same regarding weapons, character movements such as running, going prone, etc. But in the game, some features have changed, such as removing traditional HUD, since characters are wearing exoskeleton suits. These suits relay information to the player via holographic projections from the weapon equipped. The general gunplay remains unchanged apart from new mechanics such as exo movements. These exo movements are performed from an exoskeleton, which allow the player to boost, dash, and sky jump. The game is the first in the Call of Duty series that allows the player to choose different types of conventional weaponry. For example, the game features regular conventional firearms, but the player can choose to laser or directed energy weaponry, both of which have differing attributes. In addition to exo movements, the game features different exo abilities such as Exo Cloak, which allows players to turn transparent for stealth for a period of time. Multiplayer also involves exo movements and retains certain similarities to previous titles. Pig 10 from Black Ops 2 returns as Pig 13. New multiplayer features involve weapon variants which contain various different stats compared to the base weapons. This allows the game to contain over 350 weapons, both variants and base versions. Score streaks are also available and are upgradable with different modules, allowing for additional abilities or effects at an extra score cost. Other multiplayer modes include Exo Survival, which is cooperative. This is considered a new version of survival mode introduced in Modern Warfare 3. This allows 4 players to fight against a wave of AI-controlled enemies. Exo Zombies is also a game where players fight endless waves of undead hordes. These zombies also wear exoskeleton suits. The story of the Exo Zombies features the voices of well-known Hollywood movie and television stars such as John Bernthal, Bill Paxton, John Malkovich, Bruce Campbell, and Rose McGowan. Call of Duty Infinite Warfare is known to be one of the most disliked titles in the series. Some people of course love the game, but most were not too pleased with it. Negative reactions for this game started with the announcement trailer, then fast expressed frustration at the direction that the series had taken, specifically that the game and its predecessors had futuristic settings. Criticism was also aimed at the multiplayer, while campaign had mixed reactions. Infinite Warfare was first released on November 4th, 2016 on a PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and PC. Special editions of Infinite Warfare were released with a remastered version of Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare entitled Call of Duty Modern Warfare Remastered. Development of Infinite Warfare began during 2014. It is the first title by Infinity Ward under the new 3-year development cycle for the Call of Duty series. The game's campaign is centered around a battle for the solar system, which is the Settlement Defense Front, a hostile force who are the main antagonists are attempting to take over. The player takes control of Lieutenant Nick Reyes of the Special Combat Air Recon. They have their own transforming fighter named Jackal that they can customize, as well as a central hub ship named Retribution. The voice acting stars Brian Bloom as Nick Reyes, who is the writer of Modern Warfare. Other voice actors include Jamie Gray Hyder, David Harewood, Jason Barry, and voicing the main antagonist, Caitlin Koch, is Kit Harington of Game of Thrones fame.
You know nothing, Jon Snow.
Much like its predecessors, Infinite Warfare is a first-person shooter, yet introduces new gameplay features and it's set in outer space. Gameplay features include aerial combat, zero-gravity environments in which players can use grappling hooks to move easily in these areas, and they're also equipped with a boost pack. Players gain access to Retribution, a central hub world. In Retribution, players can view their progression and start main campaign missions and secondary quests called Ship Assaults, which gives them cosmetic and customization items, upgrades to the Jackal, as well as new story details. Reyes also has a wrist computer which allows him to hack into enemies' gadgets and machines such as robots. It can also be used to call in reinforcements at some campaign scenarios. The game also features 2 new difficulty modes, Specialist and #YOLO, unlockable after initial completion of the campaign. In the former mode, health regeneration does not occur without nano shots, and weapons can be shot out from players' hands. Reyes' movement will be hindered if his legs are shot by enemies. In the latter mode, which also implements the same features from Specialist, when players die, they need to restart the game rather than restarting from checkpoints. This type of feature is known as permadeath, which would be used in other games aside from Call of Duty such as The Last of Us Part 2. Multiplayer mode in this game introduced a new mode called Combat Rigs, similar to the Specialist system in Black Ops 3. There are 6 rigs in total, being Warfighter, Merc, FTL, Striker, Phantom, and Synaptic, all of which had different payloads, weapons, abilities, and playstyles. For example, the Synaptic rig is designed for players who prefer to run and gun, while the Phantom rig is suited for players who want to play stealthily. Players can also gain access to several persistent perks known as traits, which give players advantages in certain combat situations. Additionally, the game retains the chain-based momentum movement system of Black Ops 3, allowing players to perform thrust jumps, sliding, and wall running. Zombies mode also makes a return with a feature similar to the Gobblegums from Black Ops 3 called Fate and Fortune cards. It's introduced similarly to the Gobblegums in Call of Duty Black Ops 3. The cards are for temporary boosts in game to players, but unlike the Gobblegums, they are activated through point earning, and players can select any of the 5 cards they have equipped at any time, not one at a time like the Gobblegum machine. After initial use of 5 cards, players can refill their card deck for a price up to 2 times in a match. Unlike the campaign and multiplayer modes, Zombies is not themed in space combat and retains the normal movement system. In the Zombies mode, voice actors include Seth Green, David Hasselhoff, and Pam Grier. Reviews were generally favorable for the PS4, Xbox One, and mixed for the PC. Many people still criticize the campaign and multiplayer up until this day. Criticism is also aimed at making the series take place in a more futuristic setting. Call of Duty World War II is the 14th main installment in the series and also the second game developed by Sledgehammer Games. The game was released on November 3, 2017 on the PS4, Xbox One, and PC. This is the game that returns the series to its origins, World War II. However, this is a standalone title and not connected to the first 3 games or World at War. Sledgehammer Studios head Michael Condrey stated that he was unsure if a World War II game would feel right after creating a futuristic title like Advanced Warfare, but the developers ultimately decided to create a game in this time period. They also chose to include atrocities and Nazi concentration camps in the campaign mode to deliver an authentic war story and making it a bit more realistic. Call of Duty World War II started development after Advanced Warfare's development, release, and success. A new Call of Duty title set in World War II was alluded to in a 2014 Call of Duty Advanced Warfare launch interview with Michael Condrey, co-founder of Sledgehammer Games. In the interview by Metro, the interviewer asked him what the possibilities of where the next Call of Duty could go in terms of the setting. Condrey responded, "Some of my favorite pieces of entertainment are set in World War II. Band of Brothers. I'm a massive fan of Band of Brothers." Condrey dived further into the subject, and that's a great hero's war. Kind of the last that was recognized as a noble cause in a war. So yeah, I think a next generation game with the latest production values and robustness in a World War II setting like Band of Brothers would be amazing. Now, how would it play and how would the multiplayer work after the new movement set in Advanced Warfare? That's a tougher question than I've had to tackle yet. Although still criticized for its lack of innovation, the game was praised for its gameplay, graphics, storyline, and combat support of squad members during gameplay. It became the highest grossing game of 2017, starting with generating $500 million in the first 3 days. And at the end of the year, it generated over $1 billion worldwide. The story of the game takes place during the historical battles of Operation Overlord. Players take control of Ronald Daniels, also known as Red, of the 1st Infantry Division, taking part in the Normandy landings. Then we take part in various other historical events such as Operation Cobra, the Liberation of Paris, Battle of the Bulge, Battle of Kasserine Pass, and so on. The gameplay of World War II does not include the features of the last 2 titles such as wall running and double jumping. Instead, the gameplay returns right to how it was in the first game. Instead of regenerating health automatically, players must find health items scattered in different areas or request health from squad mates. Players can also obtain scattered ammo and weapons dropped by friendlies and enemy soldiers killed, and they can also request ammo from squad mates and even grenades as well. Instead of a slide movement mechanic, which allowed players to slide quickly on the ground, World War II features a hit the deck mechanic that allows the player to leap forward and throw themselves on the ground in order to get to cover quickly, similarly to a previous mechanic known as Dolphin Dive in Treyarch's Call of Duty Black Ops and Black Ops 2. Multiplayer modes assigns players to either side of the Allied forces or the Axis powers. Various new features are included such as a new headquarters social space, divisions, war mode, and a return to the boots on the ground gameplay. A feature replacing the create a class system is called divisions. Players can choose 1 out of 5 to 8 different divisions, each with their own basic combat training, division training, and weapon skills. The divisions are the following: Infantry, Airborne, Armored, Mountain, Expeditionary, Resistance, Cavalry, and Commando. A new game mode, War, is introduced as a narrative-driven multiplayer game mode developed in partnership with Raven Software. In War, 2 teams of 6 players perform objectives as either the Allied or the Axis faction, inspired by some of the iconic World War II battles such as storming Normandy on D-Day as the Allied forces, or defending the Normandy bunker as the Axis forces in the map Operation Neptune. In addition to War, popular game modes such as Team Deathmatch, Domination, and Hardpoint return, as well as Gridiron, a boots-on-the-ground variation of Uplink, which was originally introduced by Sledgehammer Games in Call of Duty Advanced Warfare. Several fan-favorite modes as well as new modes are introduced in timeline-limited events throughout the season, such as Demolition or Infected. Nazi Zombies is also included as a cooperative game mode similar to previous entries in the series by Treyarch and Infinity Ward, with its own story set in alternate history and separated from the original campaign mode. A class system is introduced where players can opt for 1 of 4 combat roles: offense, control, medic, and support, which provide different in-game abilities. Class loadouts are also included with equipable Raven mods, which are perks similar to the multiplayer mode. Voice actors in the campaign mode are well-known names such as Jonathan Tucker, Josh Duhamel, and Jeffrey Pierce. In Nazi Zombies, characters are also voiced by well-known names such as Catherine Winnick, Udo Kier, David Tennant, Elodie Young, and Ving Rhames. The Call of Duty series seemed to be heading downhill after titles like Ghosts, Advanced Warfare, Infinite Warfare, and Black Ops 4 were criticized due to jumping into futuristic warfare and battles. In the case of Black Ops 4, it was harshly criticized due to lack of campaign. Nevertheless, despite the harsh criticism these titles received, they still have their followers. But then, a game of the series started its development following its 3-year development cycle in 2016. This game will put the series back on its feet and regain its popularity, not only with its story and multiplayer, but alongside a free online multiplayer in 2020 game that players greatly enjoyed and also demolished all expectations. That game is the 2019 reboot of Call of Duty Modern Warfare, released on October 25th of that year. The 2019 Modern Warfare video game would bring back the favorites of the original trilogy with a brand new story, new heroes, new villains, and familiar faces as well. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2019 takes place in a more realistic and modern setting. The story follows a CIA agent and SAS British operatives on a mission to join with rebel forces of a fictional country called Urzikstan. They fight against the Russian forces that invaded the country and also fight against a terrorist group called Al-Qatala, which is based on Al-Qaeda. The gameplay of Modern Warfare is set on realism and features tactically based moral choices that the player must make. Players are evaluated by such choices and assigned a score at the end of each level. Players have to quickly ascertain whether NPCs are a threat or not, such as a civilian woman who is believed to be reaching for a gun, but then simply grabs her baby from a crib. This collateral damage score, referred to as a threat assessment, is based on how many civilians the player injures or kills and ranges from rank A to F. Rewards are introduced to those who score higher. Character dialogue will differ depending on the choices the player makes in the game. Tactical decisions are also included, such as a player using a sniper rifle in a large environment to approach objectives in a non-linear order, and choosing to shoot out lights in favor of using night vision goggles during breaching and clearing. The game's multiplayer mode has also been revised and made more realistic as well as tactical. This includes more focused map exploration, door breaching, and hardcore realism that removes the HUD. Kill streaks and score streaks also make a comeback. However, a new feature of both is that kill streaks can be converted into score streaks with the use of an in-game perk called Point Man. The online modes allow for a larger range of players within a map than previous installments, with a new mode called Ground War featuring over 100 players, while conversely, another new mode, Gunfight, tasks 2 teams of players against each other in small matches lasting 40 seconds per round. The game includes an extensive weapons customization system, presenting most guns with a range of up to 60 attachments to choose from. The introduction at the start of multiplayer matches has also been revamped. While in previous titles, players would remain motionless on the map as a timer would count down to 0, players will instead be transported into the battle zone as part of various animations. Special Ops also makes a return. The Special Ops mode was first introduced in Modern Warfare 2 and was also present in Modern Warfare 3. Special Ops mode is a cooperative game mode and shares its narrative with both campaign and multiplayer. A new battle royale connected with the game is called Warzone. Warzone was released on March 10, 2020. It is the second battle royale since Blackout from Call of Duty Black Ops 4. Warzone differs from Black Ops 4 by reducing reliance on equipable gadgets and instead encouraging the accumulation of a new in-game currency called cash. Warzone features 2 primary game modes, Battle Royale and Plunder. It supports up to 150 players in a single match, which exceeds the typical size of 100 players seen in other Battle Royale titles. Some limited time modes support 200 players. With each new season, there are new maps, new weapons, and at times, some pop culture icons like Rambo have made their appearance in the game. Despite its success, there was some controversy in response to it tackling realistic and mature subject matter, such as presenting child soldiers and the ability to shoot civilians. Escapist magazine's Ben Yahtzee described the gameplay demonstration as 50 minutes of cold, intense, ruthless killing, and IGN felt it was the most divisive game of the event. Other controversies in the game include white phosphorus. In multiplayer, white phosphorus was used as a kill streak. But in the real world, it is regulated by international law. The provisions of the Convention on certain conventional weapons, specifically the Protocol on Incendiary Weapons, prohibit the use of incendiary weapons against or near civilian areas. In Russia, the game was accused of being Russophobic. Criticism by players focused on a certain level in the campaign, in which it is revealed that Russian forces previously carried out an attack on an area dubbed the Highway of Death, killing many civilians who had been departing a town that was under siege. The real-life Highway of Death is a highway located between Kuwait and Iraq that suffered devastation as a result of an attack led by American forces during the Gulf War in 1991. Consequently, some users felt that Infinity Ward attempted to rewrite historical events by shifting blame for the attack to Russia. Infinity Ward had previously stated that Modern Warfare's campaign was a work of fiction. In addition, they highlighted how in the game's cooperative special ops mode, which acts as a sequel to the campaign story, the playable character and their group eventually ally with Russian forces for one of the missions. However, narrative director Taylor Kurosaki had previously noted that the story was inspired by real events and conflicts, including the Soviet-Afghan War and conflicts in the Middle East. Additional complaints targeted a flashback level in the campaign which saw Farah Karim, one of the protagonists, inspired by female Kurdish fighters who battled Islamic State in northern Syria, have her home invaded by a Russian soldier when she was a child, with her subsequently disarming and killing the soldier. Call of Duty Black Ops is the 17th installment in the main series and serves as the 6th installment in the Black Ops series. It is the first Call of Duty title since Modern Warfare 3 to be developed by two studios, Treyarch and Riven Software. At first believed to be a reboot, it was confirmed that it takes place in the original Black Ops series between the first and second titles during the Cold War in one setting, the 1980s. Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War was released on November 13, 2020 on PC, PS4 and 5, Xbox One, and Series X and X. The story of Black Ops Cold War takes place during the 1980s, when the Cold War was escalating further to newer heights. It is centered around the pursuit of an alleged spy called Perseus, whose stated goal is to subvert the United States and tilt the balance of power toward the Soviet Union. For the campaign, the player takes control of Bell, who is recruited by CIA officer Russell Adler into a multinational task force created to hunt down Perseus. Familiar faces in this task force include Alex Mason, Frank Woods, and Jason Hudson. In the campaign, players take control of a silent character named Bell, who serves under the task force led by CIA officer Russell Adler with the purpose of hunting down Perseus. Upon the introduction of Bell, players can choose the character's skin color, gender, nationality, and their intelligence agency. Players can choose for Bell their personality traits that provide in-game perks. The story is inspired by actual events, and the campaign features locations such as East Berlin, Vietnam, Turkey, and the Soviet KGB headquarters. In every mission, players can find evidence that unlocks side missions where they can play as Alex Mason. In order to accomplish these side missions, one of them involves crack codes to locate a broadcast station, and the other one is where players must carefully unmask the identity of one of Perseus' allies by checking files, which involves traveling locations and transactions of these sleeper agents. The campaign is also known to have multiple endings, such as players staying loyal to Perseus or betray it. Most players consider staying loyal to Perseus as they see it as the best ending. Multiplayer is also for players who want to take a break from campaign mode. It features both new and returning modes, as well as maps that accommodate both the traditional 6v6 format as well as larger 12v12 combat. The game has also introduced a new game called Fireteam, which can support up to 40 players. The created class system for Modern Warfare returns with two major differences. Field upgrades are implemented as part of class loadouts, and each class has a wildcard choice out of 4 possible ones: Gunfighter, Perk Greed, Danger Close, or Lawbreaker. Like Modern Warfare, Cold War also supports cross-platform play and cross-platform progression. Following an update, the progression system for multiplayer is integrated with Call of Duty Warzone, allowing for a unified level system across Cold War Warzone and Modern Warfare. In addition, operator characters and weapons from Cold War are also added to Warzone to be used alongside Modern Warfare operators and weapons, though the multiplayer modes remain separated and do not share operators and weapons. Zombies mode also returns with a new Dark Ether storyline. This storyline is concluded in Black Ops 4 while staying loyal to the main narrative of the campaign. Instead of playing as predefined characters, players can take the role of an operator characters from multiplayer as part of a CIA response team codenamed Requiem. Progression for multiplayer is shared with zombies, as players are able to use any weapon to start a zombies match, alongside gunsmith, scorch streaks, and field upgrades, in addition to returning mechanics such as wall buys, the mystery box, pack-a-punch, and past fan favorite perks. For the first time in zombies, players can opt to exfil the map, which will put them in a difficult wave with increased enemy spawn that they must survive before they can escape. Collectible intels are also scattered around playable maps, allowing players to keep track of and unfold the main story as they progress. Players can also upgrade their skills to enhance weapons, perks, ammo mods, and fuel upgrades by using Aetherium crystals, which is a currency gained by reaching milestones. A new game feature in Zombies is Onslaught, where players defend areas grounded off by the Dark Ether Orb, which must be powered by zombie kills. Sufficient kills will move the orb to new positions, forcing the players to move or die outside of the orb's protection zone. Like Modern Warfare, Warzone is also connected to this game. The Warzone storyline of Black Ops Cold War takes place 3 years after the canonical ending of the game, where Adler hunts a Percy's agent named Stitch. The game received generally positive reviews, but like its predecessor Modern Warfare, it also stirred controversy. CBR.com reported that the teaser trailer had been banned in China due to a 1-second depiction of the 1989 Tiananmen Square protests. An edited teaser was released worldwide instead. PC gamers Andy Chalk wrote, "There's also no mistaking the irony of active censorship in a promo trailer for a game whose tagline is, literally, know your history." An editorial by Ian Walker in Kotaku accused Call of Duty of legitimating the views of Yuri Bezmenov when it included footage of his interview with Griffin in its August trailer. Among the complaints he had was that Bezmenov's views acted as a magnet for far-right conspiracy theories and personalities, that Activision presented Bezmenov's interview without the proper context, and that Bezmenov himself held views that Walker argued were on the far right. This game is the third title developed by Sledgehammer Games and the 18th installment in the series released on November 5th, 2021. This game also returns once again to where it started since 2003, World War II. That game is titled Call of Duty Vanguard. After World War II was released, the studio went through a rebuilding process regarding the organizational structure following the departure of the studio co-founders and directors Glenn Schofield and Michael Condrey. In an interview made by VentureBeat about the rebuilding and the path leading Sledgehammer Games to develop Vanguard, studio head Aaron Halen highlighted that, "We love our legacy and what we've created, but we also wanted to think about the future of the studio and how we could set ourselves up to be even stronger. We're proud of the decisions we've made along the way that have led us to where we are today with Call of Duty Vanguard." The story of the game is told throughout various points in time in a non-chronological order. It features the birth of the Special Forces to face an emerging threat at the end of the World War II during various theaters of it. The gameplay mechanics are similar to those introduced in Modern Warfare, such as the player being able to mount wielded weapons to flat surfaces, interact with doors, and execute takedowns. New gameplay features allow the player the ability to use a more advanced tactical approach in combat, such as blind firing from behind cover, breaking through destructible environmental elements, or creating new paths to complete objectives by climbing walls. In multiplayer mode, new maps and features are introduced as well. Features such as Champion Hill, stated to be the next iteration of Gunfight, a 2v2 arena mode previously featured in Modern Warfare and Black Ops Cold War. The main goal of Champion Hill, whether you play solos, duos, or trios, is to survive as long as it takes to be the last man standing in a squad-based deathmatch, round-robin tournament where players combine strategy and tactics in a close-quarter, fast-paced gunplay. Combat pacing is introduced to Vanguard's multiplayer matchmaking, which allows the player to have more control over the intensity and density of core multiplayer game modes. Players can choose from 3 predefined pacing filters, favoring different playstyles in order to tailor the multiplayer gameplay experience. These preferences can also be mixed by selecting the all pacing option in the quick play menu. Tactical pacing offers a classic Call of Duty experience with traditional combat timing in a 6v6 lobby. Assault pacing, on the other hand, increases the lobby to 10v10 or 12v12 with a balanced, more action-packed combat throughout the maps. Lastly, the Blitz pacing offers a 24v player count, high action lobbies with similar combat experience like Modern Warfare's Ground War mode. Every combat pacing variations can be played on each of Vanguard's multiplayer maps. Zombies mode is also brought back and once again considered an expansion of the Dark Ether storyline and acts as a prologue to Black Ops Cold War. Although it was praised for campaign and multiplayer, the game was criticized for its zombies mode and lack of innovation. Many criticized the game for its short campaign mode. When Vanguard was revealed, viewers observed that Activision was absent. In the reveal trailer, Call of Duty Presents was used rather than Activision Presents, and Activision was only presented in small print for copyright purposes. The reason for Activision's absence was an attempt to distance itself from Vanguard due to the California lawsuit filed against them following incidents of sexual harassment within the company. In response to gaming journalist Stephen Totilo, an Activision spokesman said that this was a creative choice that reflects how Vanguard represents the next major installment in the franchise. Call of Duty was constantly played on PC and consoles, but fans would take the game with them on their smartphones with its mobile installment titled Call of Duty Mobile, which was released on October 1, 2019. It saw one of the largest mobile games launches in history, generating over $480 million with 270 million downloads within a year. Before this title, there were others that were not as successful as this one, titled Heroes and Strike Team. The game has no campaign mode and it's a multiplayer-only game with features such as Battle Royale and Zombies. The game also features memorable characters from previous titles such as Simon Ghost Riley, Captain Price, Adler, Park, and so on. It also features familiar maps such as Nuketown from the Black Ops series of games. Players can choose to play ranked or non-ranked matches in multiplayer mode. It has 2 types of in-game currencies: credits, which are earned through playing the game, and COD points, which have to be bought with real-world money. It is possible to play the game without paying, though some exclusive character and weapon skins can only be bought with COD points. Apart from standard matchmaking, a private room for both the multiplayer and Battle Royale modes can also be accessed where players can invite and battle with their in-game friends. The core game modes include Team Deathmatch, Domination, Free-for-All, Hardpoint, Kill Confirmed, etc. Zombies mode was also featured in the game, following the classic survival formula where the player fights off endless waves of zombies, aiming to survive as long as possible. A raid mode was also included where the player had to defeat a set amount of waves of zombies before encountering one of 2 final bosses. Call of Duty Mobile Zombies mode was removed on March 25, 2020 due to the game mode not meeting Activision standards. The game also had an esports tournament known as Call of Duty Mobile World Championship 2020. This was a partnership between Activision Blizzard and Sony Mobile Communications and marks the game's entry into the top tier esports. It featured more than $1 million in total prizes, which include both cash and in-game cosmetics. Competing teams were drawn directly from the game's community through 4 open online qualifiers from April 20 to May 24, 2020. Eligible players ranked veteran or higher have the chance to play. The Call of Duty Mobile World Championship 2021 tournament was also completed with more than $2 million prize pool. It was presented by Xperia from Sony. The World Championship tournament was won by Tribe Gaming from US for the Western Finals, and the Eastern Finals was won by Blacklist International from the Philippines. Call of Duty continues to be one of the most beloved first-person shooter series in the history of gaming. Some games were not loved as much, but so many are very much loved by fans. As the years go on, Call of Duty will continue making brand new games that can hopefully demolish expectations and surpass the most popular titles of the series. Until next time, gamers, this is John of Video Games in the World. Have a happy new year, and peace.